We're actually going to take John's cue and we're starting laying down, but could you just turn around and put your head to the ocean and your feet back to the mountain? And then we'll be ready for our next one. We're going to lay down, relax, get it perfect, and quite honestly, that's all you're trying to do for the rest of our time here together is just completely relax. So let's start with 3 releasing breaths. In from the nose. Whenever you're ready to exhale, open your mouth, let out sound, let out anything and everything that you just don't need. Alright, from here we're going to go into just a little breathing exercise. It's just simply here to put us in a really focused but also really relaxed state. So we're going to start breathing into the belly. For a moment, just focus your inhales, breathing in, let the belly rise up. And exhale, let it release. We're going to call that step 1 for a couple of moments. Just breathing in, breathing out from the lowest part of your belly. We're going to continue breathing with that step 1. We're just going to only add step 2. So it's the upper belly or the lower chest, kind of right there in the middle of the abdomen. So next time you inhale, fill up step 1 and then pause. And then fill up step 2 and then pause. And then just long, slow exhale. That's it. Just filling up 1. Pause just a little. Fill up 2, pause just a little, and then let it all go. Try those 2 steps one more time. And on the next round we'll add in steps 3, so that's the upper chest. Everything else is the same. Only when you're ready, inhale, fill up 1, pause, fill up 2, pause, fill up 3, pause, and let it all go back out. Try it on your own a few more times. Only hold the pause so long that it just feels relaxing. No strain, no struggle. You can come back to this breath at any point throughout the practice if it just helps to feel relaxing, or if the mind is getting carried away, you can always just return back to this breath. So you're going to feel free to keep it going or just go to a natural breath, your preference. And in just a second we'll come into some movements with the physical body. But first, you're just going to take a moment and kind of decide how you want this to go. You've got some choices. And you'll be the only person in the world that knows what you choose or what's going on for you. But the options are just take some nice light physical sensations in the body and let the mind relax or daydream or do whatever it wants to do. Or option 2. Carry on with just the soft physical movements of the body, but make a plan to train the mind while you're doing it. Quite literally asking it to watch every breath in, every breath out. And sometimes I choose option 3. I just set my focus to just really let shit go. Just releasing, whether that's physical, whatever's been keeping your mind busy, or if it's any sort of emotional stuff. And you could mix those up throughout the practice. You could stay with one. It's all good. So let's start to take some movements for the body. All you got to do is just roll over onto your stomach. We're going to start with just some really light back bending. So the first one, we're going to just fold your arms on top of each other. It's called a crocodile. And you're just going to rest your forehead on top of the forearms. It should feel like a pretty light one, but if it doesn't feel anything at all, grab a pillow, put it underneath your arms, and you can come up just a little bit higher. Should be pretty comfortable for the neck, so keep adjusting until you get that. I'm going to be in this one just a minute or so, and then we'll just slowly kind of progress deeper and deeper, so I'll leave you to it. All you're doing is breathing. So take a couple more breaths where you are and basically just notice what you're feeling. If it feels pretty sweet and you got some good stuff happening, definitely just stay where you are. If you'd like to make a little bit of a change and probably feel a little bit more, then just start to lightly lift your head up and then unfold your arms, so we'll come into a sphinx. So that's fingers are going to come forward, elbows kind of come a little bit more under the shoulders. Sometimes I like to rest my forehead on a pillow in this one. That feels quite nice. And then there's just kind of a light feeling of the shoulder blades gently drawing back without effort, and just letting the heart kind of melt a little bit forward. And be very particular with those pillows. Be fussy until you get it just right. And then right back to just simply being there and being with your breath. Take a second to scan the body, particularly the lower body. Make sure your feet are relaxed, your butt's not clenching tight, everything's pretty soft. And then do the same thing with the upper body. Make sure your shoulders are just sliding down away from the ears, the jaw is soft, the face is relaxed. And then sometimes we just got to tell ourselves this is enough. For right now, this is enough. And again, you're just kind of checking in on what you're feeling here, because you absolutely just might want to stay a little bit longer. Otherwise, if you want it a little bit different and probably a little bit more intense, then we'll come to the last variation, which is seal. So you spin your hands out to the left and right of the mat, and then you straighten your arms. You kind of use your arms a bit like post. And then everything else is the same. Shoulders are drawing back, heart is forward. Just kind of look straight forward in this one, so the neck's in a nice line with the rest of the spine. And if it's too much, you just back up. But if it's just a little bit uncomfortable, no big deal. We just stay through discomfort. And we breathe. Let's count out 5 more breaths. And it is slow and gentle when you're ready to ease back out. Just get back to the elbows. Move pillows if you need to. From here, we're just going to simply lay down with your right cheek on the mat and arms wherever they feel comfortable. We just have a slow build up to get to our next one. So we're going to start to move into the hip a little bit. All you need to do is take your left knee and slide it along the floor until it's up by your hip. So this is called a half frog. You got these bony hip bones at the front of your body. Let them be kind of heavy to the floor. Now if you decide that you want it, at any point you want one of those sandbags, just put a finger up and I'll come and put it in the right area. But again, they're kind of heavy. You might not want it. You want to try it? Yeah. You all right? Yeah. And we'll get into a deeper one of these in just a little bit. For now, you're just kind of releasing the back bend. You kind of soften your lower back. You might have to ask your inner thigh or your groin to relax a little. We're going to start to ease this into a twist for the upper back and the thoracic spine. So as little movement as possible, just lift up enough that you can take your right arm totally under your body, right under your chest, and then just lay down on top of it. So your forehead's going to be on the floor. Your leg didn't change and you're just laying down on top of that right arm. So probably going to feel like a light stretch on the shoulder. And for this thoracic spine twist, I quite prefer a pillow underneath my head. Totally optional, but feel free to grab one. So you're going to take your left hand, put it on top of your right, take a big inhale, and as you exhale, take your left arm up and all the way over to the other side of the room. You might want to switch where this goes. Should feel like a little twist in the upper back. You can put pillows wherever we need to, or sandbags. But basically, we're just chilling and breathing here. Twists are a pretty good place to be playful with the breath. So maybe for this last minute of this twist, if you want to go back to that stair-step breathing, see what it feels like to really expand through the ribs while you're twisting. Alright, then just slow and gentle, we're just going to come all the way back to center. We're going to lay down on the belly, and we'll just look the other way. For a moment, we'll let that be enough. Whenever you're ready, slide the right knee along the floor until it's up by the hip, that little half frog variation. And for some people, this pose doesn't really feel like very much. It's pretty light, and others might feel a lot. Either way, wherever you notice you're tensing or tightening, tell those areas to soften. Even just try to relax your hands. So start to take that left arm and just slide it underneath the body again. Just lay down right on top of it. I find it a little bit deeper if I just put my forehead straight to the floor or to a pillow. And then we'll take it right into that T-spine twist whenever you're ready. Just take that right arm all the way up and over. I got you. Doesn't matter. Put it wherever it feels good for you. At any point the mind tries to make you do something different, remind that you're just here to relax. You're just here to breathe. And it's enough. So maybe these last 3 breaths are a little bit deeper. Whenever that feels complete, just gently bring yourself back to the center. You can push all your stuff away. We'll just come to laying on the belly for just a quick moment. And then it might feel good to just take some movement from here. So we're going to push back into tabletop just on the hands and the knees, and we'll go through some cat-cow. So the typical one is letting the belly, the chest drop down while the chin and tailbone come up on your inhale. And the exhale is chin and tailbone under when you round your back. But we don't care what typical is, just do whatever feels good. I like to swing the hips out to the left and to the right, shake your head all around. Try not to think about it, try to just make it feel nice. It's probably going to be more comfortable for our next position if you turn sideways on your mat. We're going to use it long. Gather up your pillows. We're going to take it now into a complete full frog. So these pillows are for sure a preference. We got to figure out what your body likes. This morning, 2 of them stacked like this worked for me. But walk your knees to the front line of the mat and then out basically as far as you can. The ankles sort of come down in line with the knees and the toes are turned out. And then you just sort of start stacking things up underneath your belly and your chest to support you in this position, and try to get to a point where you can just really let the hips sort of drop heavy and release. Take a moment and settle into it, and then in a few breaths, if you decide you want one of those sandbags. I thought you might need plenty of pillows there to sit down. There you go, buddy. You can bring you many pillows as you need to get the neck really comfortable. Really guide the hips into being heavy. You might have to really talk to the inner thighs. And that's it. And we're just straight back to the breath. So even in yin, we're not trying to move around a whole bunch, but we don't have to be statues either. I find after a minute or two in one place, if I just shift my hips forward or backwards, any tiny movement starts to get you in a different place. So feel free to do that as much as you need to. If you're feeling something, you're doing something. And then that's it. We're just trying not to do anything else. particularly for anybody who feels extra tight in this position, check that you're not also tightening your butt muscles, you're not clenching your lower back. That's all softening as best you can. Take 3 more exhales in this position. Each exhale, maybe the hips could just be a little bit heavier, a little bit more released. And then to get out of it, you might want to consider it first by bringing your toes, your feet a little bit closer. Might release it, and then we'll ease up onto the elbows, then to the hands, and kind of start to push ourselves out of this and go a little bit more into kind of a wide-kneed child's pose or any other thing that might feel good. If that was kind of cranky for the knees, extend one leg back and just straighten the leg and bounce it out a little and do the other side. And we're going to keep using the mat in this same direction, and we'll go right into the next one. So just sit down on your bum, and we'll go dragonfly, wide leg forward fold. So when you come into the seated position, get the butt meat out of the way, untuck the pelvis. And for some people, if we're tight in this area, that also includes doing that, but on top of a pillow, which kind of, yeah, that should tip your hips a little bit forward there, John. Pillows could go underneath the knees. In any way that these serve you, we're going to use them. Because I noticed this morning I hadn't done this pose in a while and it was a little bit tight. So stack whatever you need out in front, and we're just going to simply try to lean a little bit forward until we feel it, which might not be very far at all. We take a couple breaths to acknowledge and accept what it is, and if it is not pain, we're just going to call it a little bit of discomfort, and we're going to practice breathing right through that. Is it tolerable, John? Yeah. If your neck gets uncomfortable, stack it up right there. And this is the kind of pose that about halfway through you probably want to check that you're not unconsciously tensing somewhere. It's really common to do. It takes a little bit of effort to check it out and just let the feet roll open. Let the jaw be soft. Let's count out about 5 more breaths in this position. Alright, let's start to ease up and out of that whenever you're ready. I usually think it feels good to kind of lean backwards and go the other way for a second, and then push the chest up and maybe let the head fall back. Whenever you guys are ready, turn forward. Let's take a moment to just sit like any way that feels comfortable, and let's take a minute with the neck. So, however you can sit, just reasonably comfortable. Let's just do some little circles. So let the right ear gently drop towards the right shoulder. And just moving like a centimeter at a time, really starting to let the chin kind of roll forward and go really slow. Eventually the chin will find the center of the chest, and really slowly we'll just go the other way. And then the right ears at the right shoulder will let the head roll backwards. And we'll take one more really slow circle, but just turn it around and go the other way. And then whenever you're back to chin to chest, we'll just lift the head up. And we're going to get into some sticky stuff now, as if we haven't already. So come onto your hands and to knees. John, I put that little cushion there for you. We're going to be kneeling on the ground, so we're setting up for a short dragon. It won't even be a long one. But bone on wood is not a helpful feeling. So feel free to just cushion your left knee and then step the right foot forward. We'll keep this one pretty brief. It's a little bit more of an active one, and then we'll take it into a longer one. So really guiding the tailbone down and trying to lift that left front hip upwards until we really feel a good stretch here in the psoas. If you're not finding that, you're not feeling it, it's a little bit more if you raise your left hand up. And then you kind of have options of just, again, centimeters at a time, leaning a little over to the right, maybe a tiny bit forward or backwards. Basically until you go, ooh, And then you just stay right there and breathe for a second. Don't let your jaw tense up. Don't let your breath get shallow. Because this position does get a little fiery, I kind of just teeny tiny movements, but I sort of just keep moving a little bit through the whole time. Let's just give it 3 more big breaths. And we'll use it to go right into the next one. So all we're going to do is lean forward until we have one hand on each foot, and then we'll come into our pigeon and yin. We call it swan. So we're going to start to walk this foot to the other side of the mat so that we can gently lay the knee down between the hands and the foot angles out to the side. If you got a big space between your bum and the floor, put a pillow underneath it. You might want to keep that cushion for the knee, and then all of the other pillows are to support your chest or your elbows or your forehead. And if today or any other day this is aggravating for the knee, no big deal. We just lay on the back and we cross one leg over and we thread the needle. But hopefully this is getting into that right hip space, so keep wiggling around until you find a nice stretch for it. And that's it. Let's be here. It's very likely for a lot of people this pose gets uncomfortable. If it's too much, if you're tensing up your jaw or your toes are squeezed tight, bring your foot closer in towards your body and lighten this pose up a little bit. You're only trying to go so deep that you can relax completely. I'm going to try to stay here for literally 1 minute longer. See if you can ask your mind to pay attention to what you're feeling, but without trying to label or judge it or make up a long story about it. If it is not pain, it just is what it is. Now, if you need a little bit longer there, feel free to stay. If that feels complete for you, let's ease out of it. And I think a down dog feels good after that, but you go wherever feels good to you. Ooh. Oh man, that one was no joke this morning. And then basically, whether you like it or not, we're just going to need to do the other side. So grab the cushion and get it ready for the knee. We're going to come into that lunging, that dragon lunge position. So, just the other side, but for most of us that's going to be left foot forward and the right knee back. We're going to today do the variation where the knee is just stacked directly underneath your hip, and then you got to really actively take your tailbone down and lift up a lot through the frontal hip bone, especially the right one. And if that is not enough, reach your hand up to the sky. If I really push down with the top of my right foot, it helps me with that pelvic tilt. And we're going to keep this one short because it's just a little bit more active. And then just a centimeter at a time, we can shift our weight in different areas and find where the body needs our attention the most. Let's take our last 3 breaths in this fiery position. And then we'll just lean forward and start to set up the other swan. So just wiggle the foot all the way over towards the right side of the mat until you can lay the knee down. All the cushions necessary. Just let the back leg ease long behind you. For some people, swan's fine on one side, but the other knee says no. Pay attention to them. Knees don't lie. Well, sometimes those big juicy butt muscles definitely lie. So if that's just telling you it's uncomfortable, no problem. Pain in the knee, we got to get out of it. So let's keep settling into the ride until you get it perfect. And then let's just go to the breath. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. The neck is comfortable. No fists, no tension in the hands. And then take your attention to where you really feel this the most and try to make sure you're softening all the way around that joint. And take a big exhale, let your hips feel heavy. Let's take our attention to about 3 more breaths in this position. Maybe use the exhale to try to let go of some stuff. Even though my body feels like I should stay in that position all day, that has been about 5 minutes, so it's reasonable if you are ready to get out. Again, we're just going to go wherever it feels good. I like down dog. And then from here, we're just going to go back into laying down. You can have your head in any direction that you like. We're just going to lay down. We'll have one more on each side, and then we'll wrap it up. So we're just going to get some lateral flexion of the spine. We're going to go into a banana pose. So start to wiggle your butt over to the right side of the mat, but it's still flat on the floor. So your frontal hip bones are still going to be level. And then you take your upper body and start to wiggle it over towards the left side of your mat. But your shoulders are still going to be flat on the floor. Your back is still flat on the floor. And then take your legs over to the left as well. So you're just kind of laying down in the shape of a banana. But everything is still long, straight, and flat. And then you have options with your legs. They could just stay where they are. If you want a little bit more, you can cross your right ankle over your left ankle. And then options with the arms. Maybe they come over your head and you hold your wrist, or they just stay down by your side. But it should give you a stretch all along the whole right side of the body. You get a good feeling in reps. You want to go any deeper? I can. And this is a really good position. I like to just tell my mind to give myself a really deep massage with my own breath. Just try to move it all up and down the ribs, through the outer edge of the hip. And as we're starting to ease towards the end of this practice, I just remind you the choices that you had at the beginning. Doesn't matter which one you choose. It just matters that it's a conscious decision on your part. So let's count out 3 more of those massaging breaths in this position. And maybe just take notice, does it feel the same from when you started this pose? Did anything loosen up for you? There's no right or wrong answer. But when that feels complete for you, just gently bring yourself back to the center and take a pause, be neutral for a second. I like to take a second, just notice the left side from the right side. And hopefully it leaves you with the feeling that you just want to balance it out. So that's all we're going to do whenever you're ready. Same thing in the opposite direction, which I believe is putting your butt towards the left and everything else is going to the right. And particularly because just the way that the spine is going to sit into the pelvis, we want to try to have our pelvis pretty level. So the bony hip bones at the front of your body, try to have them about the same height. It should feel nicer on the spine. Arms can do whatever you like. I like them over the head unless your shoulders complain. And then typically speaking, crossing your feet will probably be a little bit more. And if you start to notice that the neck is tense, just lightly shake your head no and encourage the sides of the neck to be really soft, or readjust the shoulders if necessary. Maybe we deepen these last 3 breaths in this position. And that's balance time whenever you're ready to come back to center. And I'm going to suggest that when you come back to center that you hug your knees to your chest. Let's finish with that. It is an actual yin pose, knee to chest. We'll flex the spine a little bit and then just have some symmetry. But do what feels good. Make some circles with your knees or rock a little bit left or right. Because from here we're just going to come into a couple minutes of Savasana whenever you're ready. Just like where we started. Lay down and relax. Start down with the feet. Open them up a little wider than the hips. Just let them roll open. Butt is soft. Lower back is soft. Fingers just fall open. Soften and relax the muscles of the face. And just make your next exhale just kind of a nice loud releasing exhale. So you either choose to just stay right where you are and close your practice from here, or if you prefer, start to wiggle the fingers, move the toes. Take your time to come up into a seated position. Either way is fine. And then regardless of where the body is, we always close the same way. And quite simply, it's for the purpose of choosing more happiness. Let's come to practice gratitude for literally anything at all, so long as it is real and honest and authentic for you. You just use that feeling of gratitude to put things into perspective. Maybe to put a big smile on our face. And whenever you're ready, you can lift the head and open the eyes. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining at home, and namaste.